Good morning and welcome to Mindful Mondays.
Good morning. Good morning indeed. How's everyone doing? Michelle, Dave?
Fine here, thank you. Good morning.
Fantastic. Yes, fantastic. Happy Monday.
Yep. It's a snowy Monday here in Calgary today. So, it looks like there's sun poking out next to me with the blinds, but it's not sunny at all. It's just the bright lights coming through. But we woke up to a dusting of snow.
Fantastic. Well, it's just the rain season here in Squamish, British Columbia. There's wicked amounts of rain this year. So it's just setting us up for that lovely moss, the greenery and nature, all of those things that I really appreciate about this part of the country.
Nice. Amazing. Dave, how about yourself? How are things for you this morning?
Good. Like you, it's been snowing and it's supposed to snow for about the next 5 days. So winter has finally hit here, and but we've had a great fall. So there's nothing to complain about as an Edmontonian. We've had it better than usual.
There you go. I love that mindset. Michelle, why don't you kick us off and then I will get into our introductions.
Wonderful. Just want to talk briefly about why we are here. So yes, we want to tap into that knowledge of yours, Dave, but Mindful Mondays as a concept is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and Amit and I have been doing since about spring of this year. And what it is really about having conversations with individuals around HR, human resources related hot topics. So today we're here to talk about career stress, but it could be things like culture, wellness, retention, performance management, all kinds of HR related topics. And today's is one that I think a lot of people will really be able to relate to, which is career stress.
Absolutely. I think it's a super exciting topic, very relevant, very timely. Stress is one of those things that is always around us, but there are ways to manage that. And I think that's really great why we have Dave here with us today. And of course, Michelle is our host. So I'll do a quick intro for those who are joining today. As Michelle said, we've been doing this for a few months now. And so anyone who's new, Michelle is the founder of Mindful HR Services. She has a 15-plus year career in human resources, operations, and career development. And Michelle now works with leaders in support of creating greater team cohesion and workplace wellness. So thank you, Michelle, for putting this on. Next to us, we have, out of Edmonton, Dr. Dave Redekop, a winner of provincial and national awards in career development. Dave has developed over 30 years to the development of better career development and workplace concepts and practices. He is also the president of Life Role Development Group Limited in Edmonton. So welcome, Dave. Thank you for joining us. I myself, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a marketing and brand strategist. However, today I am here as your host and moderator, and I'm excited for the upcoming conversation that we're about to have. So, as Michelle said, in this episode of Mindful Mondays, we'll be discussing career-related stress. And while stress is relative to the person in the situation, there are always ways to strengthen, as we've said, our coping mechanisms throughout career development, career intervention. We will discuss these interventions and share practical ways leaders can support their team through stressful times. So let's jump into it. Who's ready for our questions? Michelle, I think it's fair to say that stress is simply a part of life and a part of our career journey, wouldn't you say? But why is it an important topic for you? I'd love to get your input on this.
Yeah, I think that stress does definitely come and go, and sometimes stress can be really motivating, and sometimes it can stifle us and shut us down. So finding balance is really important. Why I wanted to talk to you and Dave today in particular about career stress is that in Canada, this is known as Canada Career Month. And so there's a big focus on career developments, and career stress is part of that. So why not bring some focus there? And I also knew that there was this guy here at the bottom of screen who wrote about career stress and knows a lot about that. So that's why I wanted to bring some focus to it.
Amazing. I love it. I mean, as you said, it is career month here in Canada, but I think it's such a broader conversation too. You know, career stress is one of those things, obviously, is not limited to just this month or this year or through the pandemic that we've all been experiencing as a collective. But it's one of those things that we all go through. You know, we're taught and ingrained. You go through school, you develop this career. You know, you have to be at a certain level by a certain time, and all these stressors, and then you have stressors that come in from outside that. So career is a big one of our daily lives. Dave, how about yourself? What have you been seeing in the world of career stress, and how has that impacted maybe your writing?
Well, oh man, there's so much going on, especially right now with COVID. But you know, the fundamentals are still there that people have, like you say, these big decisions to make, or they feel like big decisions. They don't necessarily know how to make them. There's lots of pressure associated with it in terms of income and how you're seen in society, and that. So it's a big deal, right? The whole work-related choices we make are a huge deal in terms of how much time and energy we put into them, and the impact in terms of how we live our lives. And yet there isn't a great deal of connection that's been done in the research around. So what does this process of career development do to help us manage our stress, manage our well-being? And that was one of the reasons Michael Houston and I got quite interested in this career development and mental health connection.
Amazing. We've had a really interesting question come in that I think is just timely to the conversation right now, so I'm going to bring it up. And, you know, for those that are on the line with us right now, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll pick them up as we go, or, you know, we'll take them at the end. Is stress required to elevate your productivity at tasks? And I'll ask Dave to answer that one.
Okay. You know, the absence of stress is death, right? Yes, we need some stress, right? And the thing I think to remember, and this is something I heard years ago, but it didn't sink in till recently, is stress is a perception. It is a perception of that I might not be able to cope with the demand. And so we, in the career development world, in fact, we help people create demands, right? Set goals, have a vision, think about what else they could do, and, you know, progress, all those sorts of things. And so as a field, we're in the business of helping people create, manage their demands, change their demands. And yet we don't always help them adequately manage their perceptions of what they've just done, right? So they take on more than they can handle, and now the perception is I can't cope. And this is where stress really kicks in, right? Is where, hang on, I might not be able to cope. Now, you need a little bit of that. Like if you know absolutely you're going to be able to cope, it gets kind of boring, right? Like, you know, washing dishes at home, you kind of know you can cope. And this is why we don't want to do it 8-9 hours a day for the most part. It's just one of those things. And so we create situations where we want demands that just create a little bit of stress. But the key, of course, is how do we manage that? So I would say, certainly in my case, it's absolutely essential for productivity. I'm not sure that's always true, but it just gives that kind of sense of adrenaline, a little bit of get up and go to get things done.
It completely creates that balance between, you know, it should create a balance anyways, between positive stress that enables you to do more and negative stress that might bring you down. I was reading a tweet the other day, and it's really sunk in with me, but it was this whole idea that being busy is not a flex, you know, or it's not a thing to be proud about in today's world, right? And it kind of caused you to stop and think about it differently of what does it really mean to always be busy? You know, we say that, but is it a good thing or bad thing? Michelle, do you have anything to add on that before we jump ahead?
Yeah, I noticed that Ajit asked a follow-up question about perception is just one of the factors. What are some of the other factors? So two that come to mind, and it's out of your research and this book that I want to highlight here. I've got it in front of me. This is how important it is to me. I'll hold it up. strengthening health through strengthening mental health through effective career development. And what's pointed out in this book, which totally makes sense to me, is yes, there's your perception to the situation. There's your coping mechanisms that are really important. But then also, is stress related to a lack of knowledge or tools and resources for you to be effective in your job? And this is where the employer comes in, right? Has the employer given the employee the right environment conducive to learning, the right tools to be effective in their job? And yet still, like I think the part that you were trying to get at, Dave, was that the stretch may be causing us stress in this very moment. But once we have learned to do that thing, anything, like think about a child who's learning to ride a bike for the first time. That is hard. That's stressful. They might get upset. But once they get it, and they're off and they're good. It's not stressful anymore. So it's the environment, tools and resources, your perception, and coping mechanisms. I hope that answers your question, Ajit.
Mm-hmm. And, if there are follow-ups, put them in the chat. We're happy to jump into them. So I'm loving the engagement that we're seeing. Thank you for those questions and the follow-ups. Let's jump to our next question here. Dave, given you have worked and studied in this field extensively, I know you, along with Michael Houston of Mount Royal University, you wrote a book on relationships between career development and mental health, strengthening mental health through effective career development. We wanted to talk to you about this. And why was it important that you published this book? What was it about it for you in this topic that really just tugged at you and, you wanted to jump into it? So Dave, if you could, please.
Oh, sure. And true confession here, part of it is just ulterior motives around watching as the mental health movement has been gaining strength over the last decades, where it is a national conversation, international conversation, certainly in developed countries around, helping students and employees and everybody with mental health. What Michael and I started hearing were conversations in administrative settings that went sort of like, well, hang on, we got to support mental health, but we don't have any money. Where can we find the resources? Oh, look, there's a career development service here. We'll just kill that, take those resources and put it over to the mental health services. And they had no idea that those career development services were actually foundational to the mental health work that needed to be done. It's at least in our view. And so we thought, well, this should be an empty neck goal. Just go tell them that, right? But then we realized there wasn't a whole lot of evidence that was clearly mapped out where we could, go and make a presentation to an executive and say, here's the evidence that what you're doing won't work. And so that then got us really interested. Why is there no evidence? Is it just because, the whole field takes it for granted, which we do, by the way? Like, ask any practitioner, do you contribute to your client's mental health? And they'll say, well, of course I do. And yet, they weren't collecting evidence. And so the second part of the thing, which is the less of the ulterior motives, is we thought, well, man, if we could actually map out what the connections are, some sort of framework by which we could understand this, maybe we could trigger some people doing some research, or in fact, better, what we're hoping is that every practitioner in every setting of career development starts measuring what's my impact or the impact of my service on mental health, because that's ultimately will do two things. One, it'll make every single practitioner feel better about their work, because even if your work might not feel successful in the moment on a bad day or whatever, the knowing that every day you leave work, you've helped your clients with their mental health, which the evidence does point to, that's a pretty good thing. And then the other thing, we just need measurement generally to make the case for career development.
I love the idea of this measurement piece, because I feel like in some respects we can get measurement happy if we have too much measurement. We try to measure everything. But I do think, when we're trying to cope with stress, having a measurement and a barometer and a marker point to say, we are making an impact or things are changing or we're moving things forward, it's at least gives us something to look at and point to. And that can help some people manage their stress because it gives them something to feel tangible with. Whereas stress itself is very untangible until it has physical ramifications or other ramifications that we can observe. So I like that idea. Michelle, now I know obviously you didn't write the book, but I know you have a lot of ideas around this whole piece around career stress and stuff. So I just wanted to ask you if you had anything to add there before we jump to the next part about effective career development and how people can manage through that.
I think we can jump to the next question, Amit. I think that Dave's been really shares a lot of really wise knowledge, and my interest in this is really around supporting clients. I see part of my work is around career transition and outplacement work. So those employers who unfortunately have to release staff, and then they come to me and I help them with their job search. And part of that is, frankly, just a really stressful time for folks that they didn't anticipate the loss of job. It's their livelihood, it's their purpose, but now we're in this situation. So what do we do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dave, we've talked a lot about this workplace stress. We've talked about measurement. We've talked about career development, all this. What is one pro tip, and you don't have to limit it to one if you have more, but what is one pro tip that you would suggest to someone struggling perhaps with workplace or career stress?
Well, I have two now. When you initially asked it, I had one, but given what Michelle just said, here's a pro tip, and this is really interesting. There's a great deal of research on work loss and stress and mental health and mental illness. Not so much about career development, but about work. And one of the things we know is when people lose their job, like in the outplacement kind of scenario Michelle just described, mental health drops considerably. When, though, everybody loses their job, like an entire factory shuts down, the cost to mental health is actually far, far less, like on the order of about 25% of the cost if just a unit was laid off or just one person gets laid off. Because, and again, this gets back to things being about perceptions to such a great degree, is that if you perceive that this had nothing to do with you, the stress is far less. The demand is the same. You still got to go find work. You still got to earn a living, but the perception of it's completely different. So one pro tip is just always come back to, how am I seeing this thing? The other pro tip in Michelle's piece on this on LinkedIn, you showed that model that we borrowed from Brian Hebert that goes, am I experiencing career-related stress? If so, well, there are three options. One is reduce demands, just stop doing something that's making you or having you feel stressed. And then at the other end, we have just manage stress because you can't do anything about the demands. So, eat right, exercise, all that. But in the middle is what Michelle alluded to earlier, coping skills. Like, are you actually skilled to deal with the demand? Because it's a perception of not skilled. So very quickly, I would say the pro tip is get really good at those little things at work that drive you around the bend. Like how to use Zoom, how to use LinkedIn, how to, like all these little things, we kind of get flustered, but then we press on, right? Rather than stopping and saying, I'm going to get skilled up on how to use email effectively, Excel spreadsheets effectively, whatever work throws your way. And it gets to Michelle's point about the employer being supportive that way. Because if you get good at all that stuff, then the demands just, right? You're no longer worried. And it can be huge because stress is also cumulative. Mm-hmm. So one little thing is not a problem. 100 little things all of a sudden is a very big thing.
Yeah, I love that idea of taking care of the little things, right? And chunking it out and not focusing on the bigger picture necessarily, but if we can take little pieces and work in those, and those would be the small steps to get up to. But no, I love that. Michelle, how about yourself? Do you have a pro tip?
Yeah. So everything is relative. If I think about the first time you and I went live, Amit, we failed. Technology failed us. I was quite stressed. I felt like I was letting you down. I was letting our guests down. I was letting the viewers down. But you know what? We recovered. We went, you know what? This isn't the last time. We're going to try again. And we did. And so this is our 5th LinkedIn Live. So I agree 100%, Dave, is what do you need to do to, if you have this part of your job and that's just the way it is and you're struggling with it, ask for help. And that's what I did, right, Ahmed? We had how many prep calls before going live the next time? You helped me with the tech side of things, which I was very grateful for. Then I found StreamYard. StreamYard's amazing. I'm not getting paid just to say that. But part of it is asking for help, and then just also going easy on yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody is perfect. And then the other things that I'll say in closing this topic off is the little things are the big things. So getting sleep, eating right, going for a walk, getting fresh air, even if it's, we're in the middle of the winter, and here, when I go outside later, I'm going to be, a drowned rat because it is just raining really hard. For you, Amit, it sounds like you're going to have to navigate through a whole pile of snow. So maybe you need to throw your snowshoes on. I don't know. But getting outside and getting some fresh air, the little things are the big things. And the other thing, part of it is a little bit like fake it before you make it. So thinking about your body language, thinking about, sitting tall, breathing. These are some of the things that I talk about with my clients who are interested in mindfulness, that when you're under stress, self-regulation and self-management is really important. So what can you do before going into an interview? Sitting tall, feet flat, breathing. These types of things you can also apply to your job as well. So it's not just a one and done. It's an everyday, the little things are the big things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, your point of our first LinkedIn Live and all that, I just want to herald back to that and say thank you for being such a great person to work with and team member. And I think, what made that successful in the end was that leaning part. We were able to lean on each other, and it's not always, the point there is it's not always just you on an island on your own, whether you're in the work setting or in that setting between you and I. It was knowing that we can lean on each other or lean on your teammates or what have you. So anyways, thank you for that. Let's jump to the next one here. And I think, excuse me, this one's a really important one. I don't know if I'll do justice to setting this one up, but I know, Michelle, in the career transition and outplacement work that you do, you've obviously seen a lot of clients. You've worked with a lot of clients. You've helped a lot of people. And I know that your work makes an impact, and it makes a difference for both employers, employees, and the organizations that you work with. But perhaps you could share a success story of a client who worked through a difficult period of career-related stress and how that worked out and what it's enabled that person to do now, maybe.
I think, Ahmed, I'll share a personal client story, and that's my story with career stress.
It doesn't get any more personal than yourself.
Yeah. Frankly, I was in rough shape a few years ago. It was actually my husband who first pointed it out. He took a picture of me one day sitting at the dining room table with this, what you see behind me here is my Laughing Buddha. So Laughing Buddha was behind my shoulders. There was a glass of red wine waiting for me. And I had this like scowl on my face as I was looking at my computer. So that was one of the signs that, I am taking this way too seriously. But where things really came to a head was in December of 2017. The team that I was on, my manager, took us all out for a really lovely holiday lunch. Downtown Ottawa, really nice Italian restaurant, intended to be light and celebratory. And I'm sitting there and I look at my colleague and I say to him, I think I need to quit my job. So that was the beginning of the end. And he looked at me and like, talk about bad timing, right? We're supposed to be out having this celebratory lunch and wrapping up the year before we go on holidays. But that was 3 months later, I left. And what I think about now, which is why I am so passionate about work-life balance. For me, that is the number one thing, is work-life balance. When I think about success, so this is a message that I'd have for the viewers, for people who might be struggling with career stress, is what does success mean to you? And success for me is feeling balanced. There were times when I look back at those months leading up to me making that statement at lunch where, frankly, I was unprofessional, I was sharp, I was sometimes rude, I wasn't myself, and I felt overwhelmed. I didn't have a clear vision. And the goals that I was working towards, I just felt like I was making no traction. And that was nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody for that. But when I think about the book that you published, Dave, and those categories of did I have stress at that time? Yes. Did I have good coping mechanisms? No. Did I have the right tools to feel that I was being effective? No. But I didn't ask for help either. It's something that I've learned over the years, to really ask for help. And then the other part of that is, did I have the ability to shift things? I didn't think that I did, but if I had asked the right questions, I probably could have shifted things and life would have been a little bit easier for me. All of that is part of what I just call life lessons. And part of that is understanding what's important to you. And which is, again, why I do this work of trying to create healthier workplace cultures and healthier human beings.
I love it. I think you're closing there on healthier human beings. It's something that I always believe in. So in the marketing world, we talk about business to business marketing or business to consumer marketing. And I always just call it, look, we need to focus on human to human marketing. And it's a humanization of everything. And if we're, in your context of creating healthy human beings, it's that focus that we are all human at the end of the day, and we're all people, and we're all experiencing and existing in the same way. And if we can recognize that in each other as well as within ourselves, I think that really helps to move all of us forward versus individually moving us forward, right? And so, no, I love that. Dave, do you have anything to add on to that before we close here?
Just one thought, that phrase you just used, Michelle, I wasn't being myself. That's got to be the best diagnostic ever of when things aren't working, right? That if you can see it, or your husband can see it, or somebody can see it and say, hang on, is this the you? Is this the real Michelle? Man, that just reveals so much, right? And then you can start unpacking the sources. But it's a great question.
And you can start to activate on it too, right? Yeah. Put plans in motion and action what you're going to do. I think this has been a really great discussion for our LinkedIn Live in November today. Michelle, if you can, please tell us about the next Mindful Monday coming up on December 20th. I'm really excited to get into the next one and start building what that episode is going to look like and, create that for our viewers here. What do you have going for us?
Yeah, so we're still in draft mode, but stay tuned. December 20th, that will wrap up the year with something fun and exciting, and something that I'm hoping leaders and individuals can take back with them for their journey into 2022.
Love it. Wow, it's so crazy to think 2022. we are there. It's right around the corner. That's amazing. Dave, thank you so much for spending the time with us today and all the prep work ahead of today as well. I know you put a lot of effort into this, so thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy and willingness and just being present with us here today. Michelle, as always, thank you to you for, building this and putting us all together in the same virtual room, bringing us together. I hope our viewers got a lot of value out of this today, but thank you to you as well. And thank you to our viewers for taking the time to listen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you to you both. Thank you for all the questions in the chat. Really great dialogue. This video will be downloaded and available on YouTube as well for anyone that has missed it. And until December 21st, I wish you all well. Stay well, everyone. Bye for now.
Take care.
Thanks, Ahmed.
Bye, everyone.